Hello everyone, today I will continue sharing the story of the single mother, Diệu Hân. While Han was busy carrying bunches of ripe rambutans to the market, back at the small house deep in the forest, her gentle friend who had always been by her side, was bustling around the firewood stove. Smoke curled up from the clay pot of braised fish that was bubbling vigorously on the fire. The aroma of fish mingled with lemongrass and chili filled the air, making the whole house smell warmly delicious. The sour soup had just reached perfection, steaming gently with a refreshing scent, making that midday meal feel cozier than ever. Han tasted the broth and gently hummed an old lullaby, her heart stirred with a quiet joy. I bet Han and little Tom will love this, it's been so long since we had a proper meal. Yet amidst that peaceful atmosphere, she had no idea that, beyond the dense bamboo grove behind the house, a pair of cold, watchful eyes was silently observing her every move. A strange man, around 50, thin and weathered by the sun, wore an old hat pulled low over half his face. His clothes were stained with dirt, and he held a wooden stick. His footsteps were oddly quiet, deliberate, slipping between shadows, hiding behind thick leaves. He watched intently, from the baskets of rambutan by the porch to the half-open door, the boiling water, and the clinking of spoons. Every small detail of this house seemed to be etched into his mind. As Han brought the lunch tray outside, she froze upon seeing a shadow flicker past the banana grove. Her heart pounded. "Who's there?" she called out, trying to steady her voice. A moment later, the man stepped out, slow in movement but with a shifty gaze. I was just passing by," he gave a thin smile, eyes still scanning the surroundings. "I'm looking to buy land in this area. Saw someone living here, so I thought I'd stop and ask." Han frowned, unease rising in her chest. His words seemed harmless, but his demeanor set off alarms inside her. "This is an abandoned house, we're just temporarily staying here, sir. What are you doing around here?" The man smiled again, but his eyes kept wandering. "I'm looking for my daughter. She's been missing for years. Recently, someone told me she might be living somewhere in this area. Her name's Han, or something like that. Do you know anyone by that name?" Anna's heart clenched. She squinted at his face, something about it vaguely familiar, or perhaps it was just her instinct screaming. "Sorry. I don't know anyone like that," she replied stiffly. "If you happen to know someone like her, let me know. I'm her father." He spoke, then turned and slowly walked off into the trees, leaving behind a trail of cold unease. But once he was out of sight, he quietly veered off into another path, crouched behind some bushes, and resumed watching. A twisted grin crept onto his face, his eyes darkening. "It's her, no doubt about it." Back inside the house, Han stood frozen. She tried to recall if she'd seen the man before, but everything remained unclear. The unsettling feeling still lingered until Han's voice rang out from the gate. "Oi! Open the door, Tom's tired." Han rushed out, taking little Tom from Han's arms, masking the anxiety on her face. "I cooked lunch already. Your favorite sour soup. Come in while it's still hot." The three of them sat around a simple meal, laughter filling the quiet space. But none of them knew that deep within the dense foliage, the strange man hadn't gone far. And this time, he wouldn't just be passing by. That afternoon, after gathering vegetables from the forest and returning home, Han still felt uneasy about her encounter with the strange man the day before. She tried not to think too much about it, but the sense of unease lingered. As she was busy washing a basket of greens in the backyard, she suddenly felt like someone was watching her. Han turned around abruptly, but all she saw were swaying tree branches and the sound of the wind rustling through the leaves. Thinking it was just her imagination, she shook her head to calm herself and continued her work. The next morning, the sky was clear. Han woke up early to prepare her goods for the market. Today, she brought along rambutans and durians, both in peak season. Before leaving, she carried her child to Ms. Men's house and asked her to watch over the baby, then told On to rest at home. On her way to the market, Han was in high spirits. Over the past few days, her income had become more stable and she was starting to save a little. She thought to herself, today, I must buy something really nice to thank On for helping me and my child. The village market was bustling like a festival. The air was filled with voices calling out, bargaining, and laughter. Han set up her stall in a small corner, neatly arranging her fruits. The fruits were fresh and priced reasonably, so many people came to buy. By late morning, nearly everything had sold out. As Han counted her money, she smiled, relieved to have lifted part of her burden. Afterward, she stopped by a butcher's stall and picked out the best pork belly and some vegetables for the evening meal. As she walked past a small roadside clothing shop, she suddenly stopped. Hanging in the display window was a light yellow shirt, simple yet elegant. It reminded her of On, the woman who had helped her fix the roof, cook meals, and look after the baby. Just imagining Anna's gentle smile when receiving an unexpected gift warmed Han's heart. She didn't hesitate for long. She entered the shop, tried the shirt on, and asked for the price. It wasn't too expensive and the fabric was good. Carefully folding the shirt and placing it in her bag, she thought, On will definitely love this. On the way home, everything seemed peaceful. The familiar trail through the forest was shaded and lined with wildflowers in scattered colors. But Han didn't realize that behind a large tree nearby, a familiar pair of eyes was silently watching her every move. It was the same mysterious man On had encountered before, but this time, he wasn't just passing by. On her way back from the market, Han didn't head straight home. Instead, she stopped by the house of Chi-men, a kind neighbor who often helped take care of her and her son. Chi-men's small home sat quietly under the shade of an old jackfruit tree, always carrying the gentle scent of dry leaves and forest flowers. As Han stepped into the yard, a dog barked briefly before going silent, recognizing a familiar face. Chi-men was busy in the kitchen, her hands covered in flour. She looked up and smiled. "Oh, back from the market already? Did you get anything good?" Han smiled, setting her basket down on the porch. "Yes, I sold quite well today, so I picked up some things for On and a few boxes of milk for Tom. By the way, do you still have laundry soap? I could use a few bars." Chi-men invited Han inside and poured her a glass of cool water from a ceramic jug in the kitchen corner. The two women sat on the doorstep, chatting and sipping water. Han talked about the lively market, the new shirt she picked out for On, and how durians fetched a good price today. Chi-men nodded along, listening attentively. "Honestly, seeing how hard you work and still try to care for your kids. I really admire you. And little Tom is growing up so fast. Just yesterday he was still babbling, and now he's so sharp." Han smiled with quiet pride. A flicker of peace and joy lit her eyes, rare gifts in her stormy life. Their cheerful voices echoed in the late afternoon, melting away the day's weariness. Suddenly, Han glanced at the wall clock and panicked a little. "Oh no, it's getting late. I need to go home and start dinner. On and Tom must be getting hungry." Chi-men quickly handed her the soap and a few other small things Han had asked for. "Go on now. Come by again tomorrow, I just learned a new dessert recipe I want to show you." Han took the bag, thanked her warmly, and hurried off. Her steps were brisk, the basket on her arm heavy with goods, swaying with her quickened pace. But her lips still held a smile, and her heart fluttered with simple joys, enough to warm a quiet country afternoon. The late afternoon sky began to darken, and the fading sunlight stretched faintly across the dirt path leading to Han's small wooden house. In the distance, hidden behind the forest's thick underbrush, two shadowy figures quietly emerged. One was a man with messy curly hair and piercing eyes, sharp like a predator stalking its prey. His companion had his face entirely covered with a black scarf, revealing only his calculating eyes. They crouched under the cover of dense foliage, whispering in hushed tones. The curly-haired man spoke with certainty. "This is the place. I followed the girl all the way here yesterday. She lives in that wooden house." The masked man glanced in the direction pointed out and nodded. Without another word, the two men crouched low, swiftly weaving through layers of vegetation, slipping past wild grass and rotting tree stumps. Their footsteps were silent as they approached Han's house like two wolves closing in on their prey. Reaching the front of the house, they paused briefly to ensure no one was inside. The masked man pressed his ear to the door, listening. Nothing but silence. "Let's go in." With a powerful kick, the wooden door flew open, hinges creaking violently. Without hesitation, they stormed inside. The curly-haired man began ransacking everything, pulling mats, tossing pillows, smashing ceramic jars. The masked one scanned the room, flinging open cabinets and dragging out old belongings into the center of the house. "She's not here," he growled. "Maybe she just dropped off her stuff and went to live somewhere else." Furious at their wasted effort, the masked man threw a bowl hard onto the ground, shattering it into shards. "What a waste of time. We come all the way here for nothing," he snapped. "Grab something to sell, at least we won't leave empty-handed." They tore through the house more thoroughly, prying open wooden floorboards in search of hidden valuables. But all they found was disappointment. The house was miserably poor, there wasn't even a full bag of rice, let alone anything worth money. "Boss, I think this is a dead end. This place is dirt poor, they don't even have a rice cooker." The curly-haired man cursed under his breath and dropped heavily onto the floor, just as a voice rang out in the distance, causing both men to jolt upright. "Mommy's home." The wooden door had barely creaked open when, without warning, two dark figures lunged from nowhere. One grabbed Han's shoulders like lightning, the other yanked her legs hard, sending her small body crashing to the floor. Before she could react, a coarse cloth was forced into her mouth, muffling her cries into helpless whimpers. They dragged her toward the bedpost, tying her wrists tightly to the wooden frame with a cold, rough electrical cord. One of them grabbed her tangled hair, forcing her head against the floor, his eyes glinting with a mix of malice and threat. "Shut up. Scream again and you're dead." Han's eyes widened with panic. She thrashed and struggled, but the bonds held firm. The curly-haired one studied her face for a moment, then frowned. "This isn't her. This isn't the girl we're looking for." The masked man growled, yanked the cloth from her mouth, and barked. "Who are you? Where's that other girl who lives with you? Speak." Han gasped for air, but before she could utter a word, a brutal slap landed across her face, knocking her sideways. Blood welled up at the corner of her lips, her cheek flushed red and swollen. She sobbed, voice trembling. I don't know anything. Please, don't hurt me." But her pleas only fueled their fury. The curly-haired one tore through the house, smashing open jars, flinging pillows, and scattering rice stalks she had dried for months. They were searching, desperate to find traces of someone else. Unable to get the answers they wanted, they turned their attention to something else, money. The masked one sneered as he rummaged through her clothes. After patting her down, he finally pulled out a few wrinkled bills hidden in her shirt. Han wept harder, nearly collapsing. "That's medicine money, for my child. Please don't take it." Just then, a figure appeared at the doorway, a tall, thin man wielding a long wooden stick. Without hesitation, He charged in like a storm, striking the curly-haired thug in the back and knocking him down. Chaos erupted. But despite his brave efforts, he was outnumbered. The two thugs quickly overpowered him and beat him to the ground. Seeing her savior attacked, Han screamed desperately for help, hoping someone, anyone, would hear from the neighboring huts. Her cries echoed through the quiet, forested mountains. Fearing discovery, the two intruders finally fled, disappearing into the dense foliage. Han crawled over to the man, hands trembling as she untied her bindings, tears still flowing. "Uncle, are you okay? Let me take you to the clinic." The man gasped, shaking his head. "I'm fine, but your child, you must go find your child now." His words froze her. She had never mentioned her son to him. How did he know? A chill crept down her spine, but worry for her son, Tom, pushed the question aside. She stumbled out of the house, calling back. "Please wait for me. Don't go anywhere, I'll come right back." He nodded faintly, eyes following her until she vanished down the trail. But as soon as she was out of sight, the rescuer straightened. Gone was the frailty from before. His eyes turned cold, calculated. Silently, he shut the door and began moving around the house with familiarity, heading straight for the spots he had observed for days. It didn't take him long to pry open a floorboard and uncover a wooden box, Han's secret savings. He pocketed the crumpled, sweat-stained bills and slipped away like a shadow. Meanwhile, Han, frantic in her search for her son, remained unaware that the man she was so grateful for had just stolen everything from her. In a state of panic, Han could hardly think. She rushed straight to Ms. Men's house, shouting at the top of her lungs as she ran. "Ms. Men! Is Tom at your place?" Ms. Men looked startled, seeing Han drenched in sweat, her face pale. She shook her head. "No, I haven't seen the boy." Hearing that, Han felt like her heart was being squeezed tight. Without hesitation, she bolted back into the street, her legs aching and trembling, yet she kept running through alley after alley. Her cries of "On! Tom!" echoed throughout the village, but all that answered her were the rustling winds through bamboo groves and an eerie, unnatural silence. Something was strange about today. It felt like the entire village had vanished into thin air. The overwhelming quiet made Han even more frantic. Tears streamed down her face uncontrollably, her throat burning, but she couldn't stop calling her son's name. At long last, near the forest's edge, she finally caught sight of two familiar figures, On and little Tom. Overcome with emotion, she shouted and sprinted toward them, heart pounding wildly. "Tom! On!" Once she confirmed they were safe, Han collapsed to her knees, clutching her son tightly, breathing in assent as if to reassure herself this wasn't a dream. Between sobs, she asked urgently, "Did you see anyone strange pass by?" "Two men?" On gently shook her head. "No. I didn't see anyone." "What's going on, Han?" Han's voice trembled. "My house, it was broken into. I'm afraid they might still be lurking nearby. We need to get home, fast." Not giving On a chance to respond, Han grabbed both of them and hurried back. But as they crossed the threshold of her house, she froze. The place was empty. The mysterious man was gone without a trace. On suddenly paused, as if something clicked in her memory. She turned to Han and asked, "Han, was he skinny, about 40 or 50, wearing a white khaki shirt?" Han's eyes widened. "Yes, how do you know?" Han recounted how she had seen the man days earlier. He had claimed to be looking for land in the area and just happened to pass by. But now, thinking back, there had been something unsettling in his eyes and demeanor. Her story made Han even more uneasy. She feared that on his way out, the man might have encountered the two intruders and gotten hurt. But Han placed a steady hand on her shoulder and said firmly, "Right now, we need to clean up and report this to the police." Han nodded, then glanced around the ransacked house, clothes strewn everywhere, broken ceramic jars, and most painfully, the stash of money she had saved up for so long was gone. Her knees gave way, and she collapsed to the ground, tears falling like rain. It felt as if the whole world had crumbled. Why is my life so full of misery?" she choked, her voice fading into despair. Han quickly sat down beside her, wrapping her arms around Han and whispering, "Stay strong. I'm still here. We'll get through this, together." In the middle of the wreckage, the two women held each other tightly, sharing the sorrow of two battered lives. No more words were needed, an invisible thread had bound them together, two souls weathering the storm side by side. After being gently comforted and consoled by Han for a while, Han gradually calmed down. Though tears still lingered at the corners of her eyes, she was no longer in a state of panic. She tied up her messy hair, took a deep breath, and joined on in tidying up the chaos in the little house, the lingering traces of the nightmare that had just struck. The two women didn't speak much. They simply worked in silence, side by side. At that moment, they both understood that presence and shared labor meant more than any words of encouragement. Every item they picked up, every shard they swept away, was like a small act of healing, not just for the house, but for Han's battered spirit. When things slowly returned to order, Han headed to the kitchen to prepare a meal for the three of them. As she was gathering ingredients, her eyes suddenly caught sight of the yellow shirt she had bought for Han a few days earlier. Seeing the gift stirred something tender in her. Amid all the loss, there was still room for love. She brought the shirt to Han with a soft smile. "Han, I saw this shirt at the market the other day. It made me think of you, so I bought it as a gift." Han froze for a moment. She looked at the simple shirt in Han's hands, deeply touched. Despite all the gossip and suspicions from others, Han had always treated her with genuine kindness, without judgment, without questioning her past. While everyone else warned Han to be careful, she had chosen trust. She had chosen to open her heart. Han clutched the shirt tightly, her eyes reddening with emotion. "Thank you, Han, truly. Ever since I came here, you've been the only one who believed in me." A pang of guilt welled up in Anna's chest. Though she hadn't voiced it, she often felt that her presence had brought trouble to Han's life. But Han dismissed that thought with her quiet sincerity. "Having you here makes me feel warmer. In times like these, I don't feel alone anymore," Han murmured. They looked at each other, no more words were needed. They understood, what they shared was real. Not just the food, the temporary shelter, but a human connection born from shared hardship. That afternoon seemed to stretch endlessly. After all the chaos and hardship of the day, even someone as strong as Han couldn't hide her exhaustion. Her frail shoulders had borne too much, her sleepless eyes now heavy with fatigue. Yet in that very moment of near collapse, she found a source of strength, not in something grand, but in the quiet companionship of a woman who had entered her life so silently. Perhaps, sometimes, it is empathy between the broken that helps us rise again after life's harshest wounds.
Xin chào tất cả mọi người, đây là 1 phút cuối của video để chia sẻ cùng mọi người. Mình là chủ kênh lytutieu RV và cũng là người mà đang làm các video để cho mọi người xem những video như mọi người đã xem ở trên kênh đấy, về nội dung của Hoài Ca, Tự Diệp hoặc là Diệu Hân. Thì mình mong rằng mọi người có thể yêu quý kênh mình và ủng hộ cho kênh mình nhiều hơn nữa. Thì mình sẽ cố gắng ra video đều đặn và hay hơn. Và mình mong rằng có thể nhận được những ý kiến đóng góp của mọi người về nội dung kênh cũng như là nội dung video, để mình có thể ngày càng hoàn thiện và cải thiện hơn để đưa đến cho mọi người những nội dung hay nhất với chất lượng hình ảnh tốt nhất. Và nếu như mọi ý kiến đóng góp mọi người có thể để ở phần bình luận, mình sẽ cố gắng đọc, sau đó là đúc kết lại. Và nếu như mọi người muốn mình ra video nhiều và hay hơn nữa thì đừng quên ấn like, sau đó lại đăng ký kênh và bật chuông thông báo lên, để mỗi khi kênh mình ra một video mới thì mọi người sẽ không bỏ lỡ mọi người nhé.